Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your lovely host, Rin, from Rin's Art Cafe, and I would like to introduce the lovely Miss Yuji Rose.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me, Rin.
You're welcome. Before we begin, I would like to put out a disclaimer. If you do not like the topics we are about to talk about, you may gladly leave this video and watch something else. And when commenting on this video, please be respectful in the comment section and don't go spreading hate to people we might be mentioning or anyone else in this video. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
today we are going to be talking about mental health and communication. But first, I would like to introduce Miss Rose. So, Miss Rose, you have your own little YouTube channel. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. As you've been a part of, and other people that might be watching have been familiar with, I have been trying to coordinate my own channel for some time, and it's finally gotten to the point where, with the encouragement of a lot of friends and family alike, I am building a channel that's pretty much just based off of what we're talking about today: communication, talking about spiritual matters, talking about societal trends, talking about art, how art is being impacted at this time, in accordance to all these changes that we are all witnessing at this point in history. Just pretty much anything that comes down the line that we can discuss together to have a better understanding of each other is the intent.
Yes. So, I'm going to be asking you a bit more questions about your channel, if you don't mind.
Not at all,
So,
not at all.
where do you want to go with your channel? How do you want to grow in a way?
I would like to actually give more of a space for people who are artistically inclined, creatives, people who are uh, encouraging discussion in their own communities of numerous cultural backgrounds, to, like I said, to come together and have discussions on how we are faring mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And this is a really pivotal point in history where so many things are changing, so many things are being reformed, so many things are being rebuilt. And it's kind of the opportunity that we have as creatives to showcase the transition of time and to consider the spiritual implications of all these are, because I don't think that anything happens on a societal basis unless it was something that was stirring in like our subconscious and within the collective consciousness. So having these discussions can maybe like help us to recognize what about society is impacting art, what about society is shaping how artists express themselves. Are there artists that are actually transcending their conditioning to create something that is maybe a counterculture to what they were raised in? Because some of us come from really rigid backgrounds and backgrounds where we can't express ourselves freely. We can't communicate with our elders. We couldn't communicate with our native upbringing. So we had to venture out and find other means and other people that connected with our message, that encouraged us to do so. And that's the thing. It's the most immediate realm that I can think of for me is art, because I write music, I write poetry, and I write stories. So it's easy for me to talk about it from an artistic standpoint. But for us to create art, they say that art imitates life. And to me, it's like life imitates art as well. So yeah, having that premise would maybe allow us to look at what are some of the cultural things that are running an undercurrent in the artistic community that's encouraging the art that we're creating, and what does it say about us and where we are as the people.
So, in a way, we can also say art influenced the building of our society, our culture, and basically all of that coming into one
Yes,
and building that up. And in a way, we create rules. Well, not really rules, but certain social norms out of our backgrounds coming together.
perfectly. Yep, absolutely perfectly put. Yes.
So, are you gonna put any of your music or what you create on your YouTube channel as well, or even on YouTube?
Mm. Maybe. Not just yet though, but I am working on things with my brother. My daughter, she writes poetry as well, so I would kind of like it to be like a communal space. And I also have come into contact with a wonderful woman. She's in Costa Rica, who I have to follow up with after I discuss with you. Her name is Catherine, and she is trying to begin a global art initiative, where it's an online community where artists from every walk of life can come and contribute, whether it's sculpture, painting, dancing, writing, illustration of any kind, can come and share not just their artwork, but we can use it as like a discussion point for what inspired it. And if it is like from a space of a lot of art is created from trauma, unfortunately, but if it is coming from that space, how can we use that to kind of renew our minds toward what inspired it, to say that, to get to a space where we're transcending the inspiration if it happened to be traumatic, and we're transmuting it into like, yes, in spite of what I've been through, my hope is to communicate hope or faith or how I made it past that, instead of just focusing on the trauma.
And art itself helps people express their emotions, whether it be writing or painting or dance.
Yes,
It helps them communicate.
absolutely. Yes,
A well, it doesn't have to be nonverbal per se, well, depending on what kind of art it is,
right.
but it technically also helps the artists themselves go through certain emotions, stuff that they can't express otherwise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have you, like, for instance, are you like any kind of artistically inclined? Because I know that this channel personally is already like a manifestation of your expression.
Yes.
But like, do you express yourself in other mediums?
Well, I make paintings and drawings of, for instance, people that inspire me, people that who I want to talk to, or people that I've seen that I really like, for
Mm-hmm.
instance.
Right.
Or I also write poetry or music, but
Very nice.
uh I'm not there yet when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to music
Right.
and dance. Well, sometimes I like to learn more stuff about dance to express myself in a different way. But when it comes to dance and music, I'm not there yet. I'm focusing more on art and, well, since I have more school stuff to do, so my mind is focused on that. And
Right.
we as humans have a limited amount of willpower. It's not I'm not saying that we don't have it, but we need to focus on one thing at a time. If we have too much stuff, we're not really going to finish anything else.
Right.
We're going to get sidetracked a lot and have like a lot of unfinished projects. And when you look at those, you're going to realize, what have I been doing all this time?
Yes.
And
Yep. I've been there. So I have a lot of unborn poems because they're still like in my creative womb. I'm still thinking about where I want them to go, and I guess it's a little easier with certain art forms like writing, because you can always like get to a certain idea, and if you find that there's a block, you can move on to something else and continue to get ideas out onto paper. But when you're trying to build an entire project, it is very good to kind of have a little bit of a direction that you follow through, so that you're not like dabbling and you're like what do they call it, a jack of all trades but a master of none. Yeah, it's not really a great way to be. You want to actually bring something to fruition.
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this technically brings us to our topic of communication.
Right.
So, yeah, communication over time has changed in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, people from the past have been finding other ways to communicate. Um, well, people started out with drawings and ancient forms of language. Writing wasn't really a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that our society technically has been influenced by stuff that went on there, stuff that was built back then. Um, we are, as a human species, we haven't evolved that far yet.
Right.
We still have some of those old basic stuff.
Lots of symbols.
We are
Yeah.
just we're basically just learning about ourselves. We're not there yet where we're supposed to be, but we're just trying to understand each other. And I believe that us communicating and the ways we communicate is very important for us to grow as people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can agree. We've seen we've seen an evolution in how we communicate, in time. It went from like you said, cave paintings to hieroglyphics, heavy with symbolism to other forms of communication. We communicate in smoke signals. We communicate in dance. We communicate in then it went from I guess grunts and size and even our own, like our physical body language, to actually learning how to form words and form language. And so it's in our language that you heard it said before that we live in language. So as our ability to express ourselves has become more intricate, it has become more nuanced, and it has a different layers depending on your understanding. So what means something to one person could mean something to another. So it's weird because we have the advancement of communication, but there are still very crude rudiments of communication that still registers on like a primal level for us. Like we're civilized, but we're still very primal in some aspects of our communication.
Yes. And the fact that if you go from different places, some stuff means something else. So you have to basically adjust and learn from the other people how stuff is there and how you're supposed to react and talk, because you might say something in your mind, it means A, but they will understand B, and
Right.
often that is not something you'd want,
No, right? Depending
especially
on where you are.
so
Yep.
technically we also have, in a way, certain barriers that we have to overcome.
Yep.
And at right now we are speaking English. Basically, English has turned into like this universal language itself
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of the world,
Right.
and it has influenced so many other cultures as well, but not really cultures, but more the pop culture of certain places.
Yeah, it's formed a lot of like the casual communication of how certain people go back and forth with one another, because they'll make references to certain things that you said, elements in pop culture, as like a representation of a joke or of something sexual, something provocative. So yeah, there's kind of like there's a growing influence that English has had on how we communicate internationally.
If, for instance, some jokes only work well in English and not in another language because of
Mm-hmm.
certain grammatical stuff
Right, right. You can tell you can
aspect.
go somewhere. Right, you can go somewhere and someone will tell a joke and be like, I don't get it. I missed it. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah. But the most important stuff about communication that I wanted to talk about is, well, you technically have, if I'm correct, there are like three types of relationships. A relationship between a mother and their child, or a parent and their child,
Mm-hmm.
between friends, or also like that would actually make it four. Between friends, that's like a
Your
different type of
peers.
relationship.
Right.
uh, between siblings,
Mm-hmm.
and romantic partners.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that communication is the most important part to keep these relationships stable, because you're not gonna stay friends for long if you guys don't talk.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's something that like there has to be like a common thread that I guess everyone agrees on, whether explicitly or implicitly, non-verbally. That okay, this is the baseline for how we relate to one another, and based on that, that kind of like the relationship blooms from the type of communication that you use with one another. I would think.
So, and I've noticed, especially here, yeah, of course, most of the way we communicate has been influenced by both our culture and our religion. And since we're a lot diverse here in Suriname, there's like, and yeah, of course, in the US as well, this has influenced the way we talk within these relationships. Well, I didn't know this until I was, online, basically reading some stuff, watching some shows. I've noticed that there is like a bit of a difference in the way people communicate. There are similarities, but there are differences. And something, for instance, here might, yeah, only be okay here but not in another country because of the cultural context as well.
Right. With you being from because you actually in hearing you speak in regards to where you're from, being in Suriname, like I realized that there are some similarities in I guess our some of our cultural aspects because there's still the Caribbean
Yes.
influence on your speech, on how you celebrate, just like your pace of living in general, of course prior to the Rona. um but yeah, just how you interact, the pace of life, the way that you embrace your native culture. But I believe that you said that Suriname is also under the influence of the Dutch, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So
Okay,
we still have the old Dutch ways of living, like the really old, yeah, version until 1975. That's
right,
when we actually gained independence. That's when, well, the Dutch bit were basically like, yeah, you guys can have your own country. We gonna leave.
right, we're out.
Yeah. So we still have that old, yeah, that part and the part of the other cultures that basically were brought here during the time of slavery and the plantations. My ancestors actually came from India a long
Mhm.
time ago, and most of them couldn't read or write. So they heard that this was a fun place, that they could actually get money and bring back to their family, that they would be rich here. But yeah, that wasn't true. Yeah, they
Yeah,
had to face a lot of hardships and a whole lot of horrible stuff that was happened to them.
right.
But yeah, and
I
there
think
were
that's.
a bunch of
Mhm.
uh yeah, cultural differences as well. For instance, a certain group didn't like another group, but over time that actually went away, and people actually got together more and started sharing their culture, which is what I believe a beautiful thing.
Yes, right. Because the neighboring to Suriname is French Guyana, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then that would mean, if I'm understanding it, because I know, like, I have a friend that she's been on my channel before, Suzanne. She is actually Guyanese, so there's the Indo-Caribbean influences there as well.
Yes.
But I guess then that French Guyana has more of a French influence, so I would imagine they speak French there,
Yeah, they
correct?
speak French there. But one thing
Mm-hmm.
I don't get, the fact that we don't get French in school. Before the independence, there was actually German and French
Okay.
being taught in schools. But now we get Spanish. I would have thought we at least get Portuguese, but we have like
Right.
English and Spanish. because
Right.
but we're not surrounded by Spanish speaking countries. They're more Venezuela and the other countries of Latin America.
Right, and Venezuela, as they're under their influence is more, again, it's a different dialect
Yes.
um than of Spanish, than like the Spanish that's spoken in the Dominican Republic and in Puerto Rico. Um, so I would think that it would make more sense to me. I get in my mind, I'm like, I'm not understanding why they would give you Spanish when, like, you're not, like, there's no triangulation of islands near you that would make you need to have the Spanish influence in order for there to be like a better diplomatic relationship between the people. It would make more sense that you both, like, they learn Dutch and you learn French.
Yes. And technically, French Guyana is still a part of France.
Mm-hmm.
So we're technically bordering France.
Right. So, and that's, so, like I said, in my mind, like, that doesn't make sense. I was like, I don't want to learn Spanish. I want to learn French. So if I
Yeah,
go to like my neighboring country, it's more easily to assimilate into that country.
exactly.
If you wanted to travel and not leave South America entirely, you can go right to your neighboring country and get along. But go figure. That's more the redundancy of education. Sometimes it doesn't foster proper communication.
Exactly. And people from Cuba and and Haiti,
Yeah,
they
Haiti. Mm-hmm.
came here as well. So you're gonna have more languages mixing up. So Spanish isn't that bad because yeah, of course, more people are coming here that speak Spanish. But
Right.
yeah, the rest. What about French? What about Portuguese? Because there are also Brazilians living here. And
Exactly.
people have been I wouldn't really say complaining, but they have been complaining because they can't really communicate with the others. And especially if something's going on, like the situation right here with the, and not
The Roni.
everybody, yeah, not everybody gets like will understand it unless you put it in their language. And
Right.
even then it's not just speaking their language, but the intent of what you do it, like uh actually warning the people like, hey, this is going on. But if you just say it in their language, they'd just be like, oh yeah, it's okay.
Right.
But
Yeah, I would think that that would hinder communication. Like you said, the languages that because I had a colleague that she's Haitian, so she speaks French, Creole, and she also speaks she'll speak just French. But that has allowed her to go to other countries and have like an ease of I said an ease of assimilation and ease of conversation with people that are around her. So if there is ever a situation where you're in danger or you're trying to communicate vital information, or even if it's something as simple as respecting one another's culture, you are able to communicate with respect, which is the basis to me for understanding one another. You're able to respectfully speak with one another, and again, diplomatically form a relationship that works for both countries.
exactly.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I find it a bit disappointing disappointing that people didn't really invest as much time in that here, because
Right.
it's hindering some important stuff and important information that isn't going to other people, which could
Right.
actually endanger their lives at some point.
Right. Very
And
true.
because people can't understand each other, yeah, there might be more anger. I'm not saying anger, but like m-
It's
uh
frustration.
frustration. People would want to fight, and that is not good for anyone.
Right.
You're
Right.
creating unnecessary violence.
Right. So, if anything, to me, it seemed a little like on purpose that they're not teaching you the most relevant languages to your region in school, because you young adults are going to shape the future of your societies. So it
Exactly.
is really important to you that you learn how to communicate between one another.
And if we can't talk with our peers, how will we come to an agreement? How will we share our stuff? So then it's just English.
Right.
English is
Right.
like universal, but uh, y- some stuff doesn't get translated well into English. You need to know the other language to, yeah, like we said, to get the jokes, to get certain cultural stuff,
The
because
context.
in that language.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to, if you don't, if there are certain contextual things that are missing, then that you could communicate it, but you're not really communicating because the person is not getting the point. And no one wants to continue to communicate when they feel that they don't understand the point of the communication.
Yes, then people tend to give up altogether, and that is not supposed to be a thing because, yeah, unfortunately.
Right. It happens right here in the States. So it's no difference. Like and I said, my family, my family is from a Caribbean background too. Like my cousin is Trinidadian and Jamaican. I'm Jamaican. I have friends, like I said, who are Caribbean, Indo-Caribbean, and it's just like the different dialects or the different forms of local slang. It's when we get around one another because of familiarity, we find a way to communicate in a way that we all get one another. But at least we're not telling one another, oh, you have to change how you communicate to make it easier for me to understand you. Again, it's about respect. So we can not be, I guess, be more patient with one another and how we communicate so that we get the point. Right here in the States, everybody speaks English and we can't have a proper discussion without people getting some level of hurt. I think it's all about the intent with which you're communicating
Yeah.
too.
I've also noticed there are a couple of videos floating around about people in the US getting pissed off that other people are communicating in a different language. I'm like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
private conversation between those people. Why are you so
Getting
nosy?
upset. Exactly. Yep. Happens all the time. Like, oh, and now, but it's these situations right now are starting to like give an indication to it's not that people are looking for a means to be confrontational or have arguments, but there's kind of always been this belief that everyone just totally abandon their cultural identifications and come here and totally buy into the quote unquote American way or the American dream. But it's like it's backward because this country is considered a melting pot. Just like
Yeah.
you have Dutch influence in your country, so you have your native language, but you also have the opportunity to communicate in Dutch. There's no expectation that your people totally abandon your native language. It's the casual form of communication. It's what everyone is comfortable with. But there's like a discomfort here with people still embracing their cultural identity and still being American. So there's like the Karens that are coming out. You shouldn't be speaking your language, and how dare you? This is America. Yeah, and this is the America that I worked and gave my blood, sweat, and tears to come here and be myself, not be what you want me to be. So there's like a difference in opinion of how people should behave here. It's ridiculous. We're grown people. Leave people alone.
Yeah, I've seen that cause recent times more problems. And these cases have been filmed a lot more. I'm not sure if they're doing it on purpose because they're being filmed because they want to go viral.
You
I've heard,
never know.
I've heard and read a lot more stories like that. But that doesn't mean
Mhm.
that there aren't Karens here as well, but they're not going to be like that. They're, for instance, they're going to be different towards another culture they don't know about, or yeah.
Right.
So yeah, of course, Karens go throughout, uh,
The
yeah, and
world.
across the barriers.
Right.
The Karens
Yeah,
are
right.
a universal thing.
Right. Like they managed to like they bled out to like all corners of the world. They infected the world.
Like the subject is different.
Right. Right. They're just caring about other things, but they're still caring.
Yes, but depending on where in the world you are, they have a different name,
Right, exactly.
different species of Karen.
Right, exactly. See, I don't know. In the Caribbean, we have a whole lot of Bettys and Sandys and such. So I don't know. In Jamaica, a Karen might be a Betty.
Exactly. I told you that I did a bit of like a survey. I asked a couple of friends of mine what they would like to see in a relationship between either that between their friends, them and their
Right.
families, or them and their siblings. And especially here, I've noticed that the communication between some parents and adults, it's not what it should be.
Right.
Like yeah, they have problems communicating with each other, which can actually cause more harm to both parties.
Right.
Noticed in some places, parents have been too strict, and their children have actually gone and done some stuff that would you consider to be questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of what also what I wanted to bring up, because yeah, these it felt like these kids didn't really have someone to talk to about this, or had any help dealing with some of this stuff. And some of them aren't really allowed to I wouldn't say see the outside. They see the outside world, but they don't communicate with the outside world. They usually stay in their little communities,
Right.
and they stick to their norms. And when they see something from the outside or get to know something from the outside, they're like, why is mine so different? They have like this kind of identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And because usually the adults don't talk about this stuff with their children.
Right.
And I would like some advice on how to deal with something like this. You being a mother yourself, and
Right. Um, who in that case I should have brought my daughter on here. But because I think that as a parent, what parenting is continuing to teach me is that I have to juggle two different things. I have to remember the time when I was my child's age. So I give my child the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the thing that she's curious about, or the thing that she might approach me with questions about, or the situation that she might explain to me happened between she and friends, or she and the boy that she likes, or even the relationship between she and her father. Um, Sorry, my Caribbean's coming out. Her father and her. um, but yeah, but it's I so I have to kind of keep myself in that space, as well as still hold her to a standard of maturity, that as she's gotten older, it is her responsibility to communicate to me what's going on in a time frame where I can still offer her some advice before she has altered the course of her life. Because once you younger, what I said, I'm thinking back to when I was 15, 16 years old. Once we're out there with our peers are equally as confused about life and have just as many questions about life as we do. With the only exception being the the ones of our peers who have gone through like traumatic things at home. So their maturity level is way beyond ours. So that's when you kind of run into those who were my age but behaved way more maturely than I did. So they were already into things like taking substances or having sex, or just being really really aggressive with other people, and kind of being like really domineering or predatory toward those who are more naive because they've been exposed to more. So those are the ones you kind of see like a little bit who may practice being a little bit more abusive with their influence. So that was one thing that I saw. And that also made me want to talk to older people who allowed me to speak my mind without judgment. But when you go around older people who are strangers to you, they have no reason to give you advice from a space where they are caring about your safety. So they could tell you, oh yeah, do those drugs. It's not going to hurt you. You just got to only take this much, or go ahead and drink. You can drink, but don't, but just try not to drink too much. But if you've never drunk, what's too much? So my family, they didn't restrict me a whole lot, but they did restrict me in some ways that I wish I had more information. One thing that they did demystify for me was alcohol. So when I was younger in Jamaica, we make sorrel during the holidays. Sorrel has wine in it. So just knowing the effect of how the sorrel made me feel when I was old enough to drink it, I realized that I didn't really want to drink. Drinking and getting drunk was not going to be my thing for a while. But I still didn't have such a barrier on my, or such blinders on my eyes that someone could just come and rip them off. And because I've never seen it before, I run into a wall. So I think that it is going to be important that you younger adults, because you're young adults, you're soon to be adults, that you learn to be confident with what you have questions about, and I guess like arrange your points. Try not to be like really, really like emotionally charged. Be emotionally honest, but not be like reactive, like crying or screaming, or like you kind of have to like it's like a chess game. You have to know how you're gonna move, knowing who your opponent is, and
You
it's not and
can't
it's not.
be too overly emotion, like put it all out there. Nobody's gonna understand you. People are just gonna see the emotion and all of that. They're not gonna try to understand you, because they, in their mind, they're gonna be like, if I talk to this person might just cry or scream or react this
Exactly.
way. So they might be afraid to talk to you. You don't
Right.
get the advice or the stuff that you yourself need. So
Yes.
it's not working
Yes.
out for the both of you.
Exactly. So you have to approach people. Sorrel is delicious. It absolutely is. You don't know. um, but yeah, like you have to. One thing that I've learned from Richard, that we mutually know, Richard Grannon. He always says that when you're engaging somebody, you have to approach them with the energy that you want them to give back to you. So if you want to have a logical discussion with someone, you have to approach the conversation in a logical state of mind. If you have to like think about it at first, work through the emotion, work through the feelings, work through the anxiety, the possible, the angst that you might have about it, the reactivity of it. So by the time that you get to the discussion, you're able to approach it from a clear and calm space of thinking. So actual communication can happen. You can say, look, I understand that you might be upset, mom, dad, older sister, older brother, older uncle, older aunt. But I have questions, and I don't want to go out into the world and learn about this from someone who doesn't care about me. So can you, as someone who cares about me, can you please explain to me how you dealt with the situation when you were my age? So that automatically puts them in a space where they're like, "Ooh, how did I handle this when I was their age?" That puts them on your playing field mentally. To me, that when my daughter approaches me with stuff, I have to go back to that space where I was her age, and I was thinking about how I reacted then, and what I thought then, and how I felt that I couldn't express myself, and what that did to me. So I can understand that if I don't want to transfer the trauma of that experience to her, if I want her to be better equipped to handle it than I was, then I, as an adult, have to come down off my pedestal of, you shouldn't be doing that, to understanding that, no, Kat, when you were her age, you did that. So knock off the high and mighty, you know better. At one point, you did it. Go back to the space where you didn't know what you were doing and discuss it from there.
Basically, giving your children the tools they need to survive in the outside world.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, if you're going into a situation, you haven't tried this thing yet, you don't know what your tolerance is, you're gonna do it, and something might happen that you don't want that to happen. You're like, oh my god, I wish I had known this before. What's gonna
Right.
happen to me? You're gonna get all kinds of panic and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And that's with
So,
so many things, with like I said,
yeah,
with drugs, with alcohol, with sex. A lot of children, unfortunately, they receive a huge amount of trauma from being involved in some sort of intimate activity that they weren't ready for. Even if it comes to someone who they didn't want touching them, They need to be able to communicate, hey, someone did something to me that I wasn't ready for. And we can't, as adults, it doesn't put them in a space to be able to discuss that and and feel that they're safe if we as adults are reactive. So adults need to kind of, we also have our, we're not perfect. We do also have our work to do in understanding where our children are, and that we're in a very we're in time that is putting a lot of pressure on people. And it's not just we adults alone. It's putting pressure on our children. It's putting pressure on our nieces, on our nephews, on our cousins to be a certain way that they may not be ready to be yet. And they don't really know how to be yet. So it's our responsibility. We are the ones that are stronger. We're the ones that have lived through whatever we've lived through, and we're still here. We have to give them the tools, as you said, to be just as strong.
Because my dad actually said to me, if you want to try something like alcohol or something, do it at home. Uh, like, since he's a doctor, if something happens to me, I know where, like, at a certain point where I can stop doing this and we can just, like, be done with it, put it away. Yeah, we're not trying it anymore.
We're not doing that, right?
Yeah, and creating that safe environment is what I believe is also healthy for the children.
Right.
And
And there's also the
yeah,
requirement of the respect, because after a while, if your parents say, look, I let you try it, I'm not comfortable with it, so I need you to stop. Like my mother, for instance, like I have piercings, and tattoos. I didn't get tattoos when I was younger, but my mom let me go for my first piercing. She took me and signed for me. And because she wanted to see where it was, who was going to be doing it, was it clean, would I be safe? And afterwards, she's like, are you okay? Now you have to be responsible enough to deal with the piercing that you got, because I don't want to hear about infection. I don't want to hear about it hurts, and I spent my money. So, or I gave you your allowance, you spent your allowance money, so now it's your responsibility. So you have to deal with the reality of your choice. My mom was instrumental in that way of making me realize that if I'm going to do something, I need to be responsible enough to do what it is I asked for and not falter. So it goes both ways. It's still a matter of responsibility. We have a responsibility to one another.
so yeah. And I've noticed some people or parents, when they communicate with their children, they tend to fall back on yeah, what they know, and like uh religion as well.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And religion isn't a bad thing, but well, it differs from family to family and
mm-hmm.
also the culture. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, if you're talking about something like mental health,
Right,
um in yeah, in the older cultures it hasn't really been discussed or talked about that. And if you're dealing with something like that right now, you're gonna want to go back to what you know about it. What did religion say and stuff about stuff like this.
right,
And often than not, mistakes can be made.
right.
So yeah.
And relates to what we've already discussed so far. As far as your spirituality, um, it's your individual experience.
Yep.
So like I believe that from what I've read about Suriname, it's a little bit of, like like Jamaica, like Guyana, like Trinidad and Tobago, where there's a Muslim influence, there's a Christian influence, there's a Catholic influence, there's the Jewish influence. So
Yep.
there are multiple elements of the fabric that make up the spiritual community of our respective countries. So how has your like spiritual experience been? How has it shaped your mental health personally?
Well, I have actually learned a lot of good values from all of these things coming together as one. Um, at At home, I was raised as Muslim, and at school, I went to Catholic schools. So I, yeah, learned stuff from there as well.
Right.
We learned, yeah, discipline and all of those things. Like, first, before we eat, we need to pray first. And out of that, I learned to be thankful for food. At home, we do the same. So that is the positive I've learned from that, and I've also like looked at the similarities.
Right.
And yes, which is this is actually like the good stuff that we could
Right.
learn from religion.
Right.
But not everything has been I would say talked about or discussed in schools or at home, because not everybody knows how to deal with something like this.
Right.
Especially
So,
when people are struggling with depression or other mental health issues. People will fall back on um some parts of their culture and religion that has taught them to deal with stuff like this, and it doesn't always help.
okay. So like so as far as your personal experience of your faith has gone, do you feel that it is so you kind of like are saying that it kind of hasn't always given you what you need to deal with mental and emotional situations that have come up in your life.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Like for instance, I had this conversation with a few other people as well. There is this thing people say, to some people who are struggling with depression or something else. They were like, "Oh, you're just supposed to pray more."
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I don't really agree with that. This is
Right.
something. It doesn't always have to do with religion. Religion might give you that peace, actually, uh,
Right.
to look at your emotions, or to, yeah, connect with God or whoever in that
Right.
quiet time you have. But they also have like the biological parts that doesn't always correlate with religion, that
Right.
needs something else. For instance, medication or somebody to talk to about this stuff. Even if you can talk about this with, well, the spiritual yeah, teachers and who you believe in, there are some stuff in your body itself that needs to be changed, or, yeah, discussed on how you deal with something like this.
Do you find that in your culture, because I know if it's anything like mine, is there it with the starting amongst like your peers, are you starting to have more discussion nowadays um about like your mental and emotional health and about how you're getting past certain issues or how you're coping with certain issues? Are those some of the discussions that you're both like encouraging to have between each other right now?
Yeah, especially nowadays, I've noticed that that has actually increased, which is a good thing,
Yeah.
because not everybody, well, knows a lot about this stuff, and that's why I also kind of wanted to have Mr. Richard on here, so we could direct people to his YouTube channel
Right.
as well, because these are important tools that, well, I believe the youth here actually need. They don't know how to either express themselves or to talk about these issues. Everybody is like, get educated, talk about mental health, but nobody is like, how can you talk about mental health? Or what can you do?
Right. Right. Which I think that even in his absence, like um I still refer to Richard like all the time. There YouTube is a wonderful resource to get people in touch with the type of emotional coaching that might easily translate to how they naturally express themselves, but Richard has been one of me personally has been one of the biggest factors in myself as a 30th. At the time I encountered him, I was 33 years old. So in these 3 years of my life, he has spoken the language that has helped me to translate my emotions most effectively and channel them into a space where I could start to look at what's going on before I even refer anyone else to him. It's more of a matter of how can I absorb this for myself. So by you being in contact and absorbing, his words and the lessons that he's put out on Fortress Mental Health, you're like kind of like you're already the ambassador to
Yeah.
him. So the more that you're aware of how you feel, how you think, the more that you're taking
Your emotional
agency.
literacy.
Exactly. And you're taking agency, you're creating a platform for you to express yourself. You are actually embodying what he's teaching, what he's trying to help others do. Get to a point where you don't need other people to express things for you. It's best that you learn how to express yourself, how to understand yourself, because it's from your intention, it's from your inner world that you create the reality around you, including enabling other people to talk to you. So you doing this right now is a prime example of how it's worked for you. So
Yes, I've thought about starting like a YouTube channel and stuff a long time ago, but I didn't really like feel the idea until I started talking with those two from Tentacle Croissant a lot more. I was like, hey, people in Suriname need someone like this, so they might be able to develop themselves as well, and
exactly.
actually find a way to communicate, and they don't have any so they don't need somebody else to communicate for them.
Exactly. And sometimes it's a matter of I think that your ability to express yourself is yeah, you've done a lot for a lot of us, Maria. um your I believe that your ability to communicate is directly linked to your faith. So when you don't have faith in yourself, when you don't feel that you have agency, you silence yourself. So this is what so many corporations and government governing bodies do to us. Once our faith as a people has been worn down, we don't know how to communicate. We don't feel that if we try to communicate to anyone would even listen. So and sometimes it takes something deeper. It takes a deep walk with your faith, but it's not a walk necessarily outside. It's taking a walk into yourself. It's taking a walk into your own mind, into your own heart.
Know yourself, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like the moment we can learn more about ourselves, it's a blessing, basically. And
Yes.
it's going to be easier for you to communicate with other people because you're going to also be open-minded as well. So you can easily I'm not saying easily, I'm just like it's going to be a lot easier for you to look at the other person's perspective and see,
Absolutely.
hey, have I gone through something similar before or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
you know, understand
absolutely.
each other. Like love yourself first before you love someone else.
Right, exactly. At least like once you love yourself, you can understand someone else's space even when they're not loving themselves. So, because some people don't know how they're being until you show them that, hey, I've been through the same thing and I'm here in this space trying to understand you. So then that will make them look at themselves like, maybe I need to work on my understanding so that I can meet them there. We can meet each other in these spaces where we're both uncomfortable, but we're still trying to foster and create an environment between the two of us where we can talk about the uncomfortable things and not be divided by them.
Mm, exactly. Like I've noticed, especially here, um I probably mentioned this before. It was about cancel culture and deplatforming. So
Mhm.
people here, a couple of beauty influencers had a different perspective. on the Black Lives Matter movement. They because of their own influence of the whole culture, and we don't uh, we haven't experienced stuff like they have in the US until you go to a place like Holland or the US itself. But
Right.
in Suriname itself, it's different. We
Right.
have yeah, we have different things we fight about. I'm gonna say it like that because that's how it is usually seen.
Right.
So and they were saying stuff like all lives matter because they had uh, like we don't we don't really see white people here. I'm gonna say it like that.
Really?
They're usually tourists or people from back then who came here to settle, or doctors or stuff like that. But we
Okay.
don't have those issues like they do in Holland or the US
Right.
or other parts of Europe or wherever. So,
Right.
uh, f- with that understanding, that's why they were saying stuff like that. And I saw people telling them to take take down their shit, take sorry,
It's
take down
okay.
their platform, that they're spreading hate to younger to their young audience, and that they're not that they should get educated. Um, I don't and I wanted to talk about that. Like, I'm seeing that there isn't really that much of communication between our influencers and the people around them, and people don't really look up certain contexts and stuff like that, which I find very disappointing because you're not putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, or you're not really looking up some stuff, and you're just saying, I believe that this person should be canceled because I think so. And that is
Right.
not how things are supposed to go. People are supposed to be held accountable for what they say and what they do and take responsibility for that. Nobody is free from criticism, especially if you put something out there, but that doesn't mean you should completely take them off the platform. At least tell them, hey, this is what I think, and that is why I don't agree with you. And
Exactly.
and this form of communication might also actually lack of communication might also shape our mental health in a not so positive way, and especially since it's on social media, everybody is seeing this. I've seen well, everybody basically here is either on TikTok or on Facebook. Nobody is really on Instagram that much, so
Mhm.
you're just gonna see stuff on TikTok about people discussing these types of stuff.
Right. And that I would say that 'cause I can be incredibly reactive. I can be, especially in the current the geopolitical climate that we're in right now. It's easy for me to get stuck in my bracket of thinking, where based on how I was raised, my personal beliefs, my personal experiences totally shape the experience of seeing other people. So it's not until I'm in a position where I can see that, hey, if someone were to just silence me, I don't get to grow.
Exactly.
I don't get to reach
Learn from your
outside of
mistakes.
myself. Right. I don't get to reach outside of myself and understand the impact of my behavior and my mindset on other people. So then when that behavior continues to happen, it's because you shut that person down from the opportunity for them to break out of their relative experience of life to have respect for other people. So it's not about us making people fit our narrative. It's understanding why they have the narrative that they have. And it's only once we get to that space that we can finally say, okay, well, based off your narrative and based off my narrative, they may never meet. They may never see eye to eye, but I respect you for having the mindset that you have. As long as you can respect me, I respect you. And it's not until there's disrespect between the two of us that I will say, okay, now because you're disrespectful, I am going to exert a boundary. So I don't have to cut you off. You can continue to express yourself how you choose to, but I would hope that you would use your expression to remain respectful of other people and present to other people's realities. It's not about you changing what you're saying. It's about you understanding that the impact of your words can change how someone sees someone else. So be wise with how you express yourself. Don't silence yourself, because that's phony. That would make you fake. And then you can have the same detrimental beliefs in how you treat people, and someone is still being hurt.
Exactly. So yeah.
Sorry, that was
No, it's okay. I love seeing you express yourself and talk about this because that's like some barriers certain people need to overcome. And if they are looking at this video and they see that people are talking with each other, even if they might not agree on something, they can still talk about it and discuss it and still respect each other. That's like a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
something I feel people need to learn.
Yeah, I think that that's something that respect and understanding, respect, understanding, love are things that I think transcend language. I don't have to speak to let you know that I care about you, because I can give you my attention. I can be intently focused on what you're saying. I don't have to let anybody know what my faith is. My behavior communicates what I have faith in. So I don't have to walk around beating you in the head with what I believe. I behave according to what I believe. And I don't have to speak your language to show you that I love you. I can be around you and support you. I can endorse what you're doing. I can, again, give a clap or give a right on, keep going. Like, these are things that I believe that go beyond communication. That if we were communicating that way, or if we were in that space of, these are things that I am non-verbally communicating at all times, this is what I'm putting out into the ethos, into reality, this is what I want my message to be. So if I don't have to speak, someone can be around me and just say, hey, well, I was around this person and I don't know what it was about them. They were chill. In spite of everybody being turned up and angry, they were chill. And after a while, everybody just kind of eventually calmed down, and eventually everybody started talking, because that's the intent. And I think that intent is something that can ride over anything that anyone might be trying to do to create conflict. That's my belief anyway.
I really like hearing about that, and especially your actions speak louder than your words ever will. Somebody can say whatever they want to, but watch how they act. Then you'll
Exactly.
truly know if they're putting their money where their mouth is.
You said it. Yeah. You said it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And especially since stuff is migrating more on social media, I have noticed a lot of toxic behavior, not just from here, but yeah, a lot of places. The way people react, they don't have these values. They don't try to communicate like how we're trying to do it. They're just gonna be like, "Hey, I don't agree with this." Write angry comment, and yeah, and just hate everybody. Blah blah blah. They have their own reasons behind that. I would love to understand them. I mean, you're allowed to give your opinion, or you're allowed to not like something. I'm not gonna say just hate, but not like something, and we're supposed to be able to communicate that.
Exactly. And the thing is that, um, perhaps what it is like, in spite of all the communication, all the mediums that we have that would allow communication, um, people don't necessarily want to understand a point that conflicts with their point. Understanding is easy when someone is communicating with you that you want to understand because you like them. But what happens when someone is communicating an ideology that doesn't match your worldview? Like, a man could communicate with me and he could say, well, I'm a misogynist and I don't believe that women should be talking. Women should be in the kitchen with the belly and cooking and, and raising the family. And I could be like, you know what? Whatever you were raised
That's
with,
your opinion.
that's your opinion, right?
No,
I clearly don't fit that. So I don't know how much of a conversation we can have, but hey, if that's what you want, then go ahead and
I don't
create
have
that.
to agree with you. I respect your opinion.
Exactly. That's all.
I respect you
That's
for
not
having,
me.
or
Yeah,
yeah.
that's your opinion. If that's what you want, by all means, go out there and get it. Make it happen.
And if
You
they
want to
are
do a
willing to
purple
talk with
unicorn?
you, despite
Yeah.
what they know, or yeah, or them being
Mhm.
misogynist or whatever, if they are willing to have a conversation with you about this and being also respectful on their end,
Right.
yeah, that's good.
Exactly. More power to you. Go ahead and get it how you live it, is what I say. If that's a life that you want, go out there and get it. Good on you. But that's not what as a woman, that's not what I would want in a partner. But it's not about what I want. It's about your mindset. So if you're communicating your mindset, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that means that we in the conversation we don't have to agree, but yeah, we don't really have to force ourselves to like each other. We can just walk away like, hey, I don't agree with this. We've already established this and that. We don't agree. Yeah, we don't have to hate each other. We don't have to constantly yell about, yeah, mine is right, yours is wrong. No, it's just like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So to me, like, we're in a time right now where there's like I convert you or I cancel you mindset. It's either you see my light, you see the light, or I cancel you. Instead of just saying, you know what, let's just respectfully agree to disagree and move forward.
As long
Especially
as
if
you're
we're
not
trying to get
hurting anyone or your environment, or you, I
yes.
would say, or yourself, but other people will agree it's my life, I do whatever I want with it. I'm like, okay,
You're right.
that's your opinion.
Right. You're absolutely right. It's your life. So,
Because
that's
I
fine.
wouldn't do something that would hurt me or anything like that. But when you start caring about someone, you would not want to see them get hurt.
And that goes back to what we were discussing about, parents with intergenerational communication. We are communicating when we're trying to protect you. It might come off as we are trying to control you. And I have been under such parentage of, oh no, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, I don't want you doing that. But it's like, at the end of the day, I have to live my experience because you're going to be gone one day, and I'm going to have to make this discussion with you. If not sooner, later. I will have to make this decision for myself. So as a parent, like I said, as the young adults, I encourage you to build that confidence in yourself, to research what it is you want, know what it is you want. Again, have a logical argument for why it is that you want what you want. You want to do what you want to do, travel where you want to travel, be friends with who you want to friend with, whatever your life choice is going to be. And we as adults, it's our responsibility, again, to you. If you approach us in that way, it's our responsibility to you to express that we don't agree, express that we believe that, look, based on what you want to do, you could get hurt, right? And I guess kind of like maybe go with you a few steps down the road. So like before, like if you're gonna say you want to jump from this side of a ravine to this side of a ravine, and no one's ever jumped from one side to the other. So you're saying, I want to jump. Mom and dad, I want to jump. I want to jump. And all they remember is they had a friend or a loved one that jumped and didn't make it. So they're dealing with the trauma of seeing someone jump and not make it. So it's your responsibility to go out there and prove that, look, I've already started to look into information about this school overseas. I want to leave home and travel. I've already done this. I've already looked into this event that I want to go to, that, you can't come with me, but it's me and my friends. I want to go, and I know it's going to be safe because I know where we're going, who we're going to be with, when it starts, when it's over, how I'm getting there, how I'm getting home. So as adults, we're like, okay, now understand that if we let you do this, you have to have exhibited responsible behavior prior to you doing this, so that we have the confidence in you to say, my child is a good child, and I know that when they go out there and they do what they're going to do, I've seen them off, and I know that they can make that jump, and they'll be fine, and they'll jump right back over and come right back to me. Just like a mama bird has to push her babies out of the nest so that they learn how to fly. I think that maybe we as parents, we stopped you from being able to fly, and that doesn't help you, considering how things are changing. You're going to outlive us. I'm like, how many years you're a senior? I'm 36 years old. When you're 19, right? So I'm 25 years older than you. So when I'm gone, you'll still be in, like, depending on if I live to my 80s, you'll still be in like your 40s. So it's you. We have to learn to help you guys be strong enough and confident enough that when we hand life off to you, you won't just like, yes, you won't just drop it like, oh, we messed up again, and then wonder why we as a species are like so far behind. Our technology is like light years ahead of us, but we as a people, mentally and emotionally, are so far behind our technology. So yeah, we have to. You guys have to be responsible and show that you're ready for it, and we have to be responsible enough to tell you the truth about the risk. And if you're gonna go, we're gonna take the first couple steps with you. Okay, you good? You sure you're good? You sure you're good? I can come with you. And you be like, no, leave, go away. And we can go and live, and pass away in peace, and know that, hey, well, we pray that, you guys believe in ancestors. So you know that when we're not here physically, we're still with you, and we trust you.
Technically, you will still be with us. We will still think back to you guys. Like, what did Miss Yujiro say? What did my mom say back when? What can I learn from there?
Right, exactly.
And then
We can tell you,
and we can look back at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's also why people also look towards religion. That's basically our ancestors writing towards the stuff that they learn from
their time,
their higher power or beings or whoever, so they can basically look back and how to deal with a certain situation. So we can learn. We can learn from other people's mistakes. And I wanted to ask you this. As a hypothetical situation, if I had a friend and they would do something that I wouldn't agree with, for instance, it would hurt them, and if I called them out for that, and I wouldn't basically be getting the reaction I wanted, like for instance, it wouldn't be like, oh, I didn't realize that they know what they're doing, they know that they're hurting themselves, but because you called them out on it, they react to you in a certain way. It could be aggressive. It could be in they could want to cut off all connection with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in similar situations where I have called out people for stuff that they did because I believe that it was hurting themselves and everybody around them. And so, how do we deal with something like that? Because it's going to happen a lot more down the road, and especially with the people who you invite in your life, and especially if you're going to set these boundaries. And yeah, you won't be able to hold on to them. Is it then best to just let them go?
As much as it might hurt, yeah. There comes a point where, like, I love my daughter with all my heart. I love people in my family with all my heart. I love the people that I've been blessed to interact with in my life. But I realize that I've done myself the greatest amount of hurt in trying to hold people in a pattern of behavior that I'm comfortable with. I am learning, I definitely don't have it mastered, but I'm learning that people have their own destinies. Even when it comes to love, when it comes to your relationship with the person that reach out, you marry, it will happen with your children, it will happen with friends, it will happen with family, where you might vehemently be opposed to their course of action, but you don't have control over anybody's destiny except your own. And the more that you try to control other people's destiny, it will hurt you. It will pierce you through with a lot of grievances, a lot of resentments that you wish you didn't have, because ultimately all you want to do is love that person. So as long as they are not physically harming you, physically disrespecting you, you can always love that person. But sometimes loving someone is understanding that loving you means that I let you go to live your life.
And if you see this person has been exhibiting behaviors that you wouldn't necessarily agree with, and you'd still want to love them and the good parts, it's like kind of eating some good food, good delicious food, but then having a really bad stomach ache afterwards. The food was good, but it was toxic to you.
The after
And
effects.
you can't, exactly. So at a certain point you're gonna have to say, stop, I can't associate with you anymore.
Yeah, and it's not even like, it's not coming from a malicious place, and you don't have to necessarily cut that
Mhm.
person off, because if we, as I can say that for myself as an adult, or being the age that I am right now, um, there have been times where I didn't know, I wasn't aware of my behavior toward other people. I wasn't
Mhm.
aware of where I was dealing with people from. Like, I was dealing with someone from an emotional set of blinders that had me fixed on me, and not how it might have affected anybody else that I didn't keep in contact, or I didn't respect what they wanted for me. And it doesn't change the fact that I still needed to go up and learn what I needed to learn, because in my separating from people, I go up and I have my own experience of life that will help me learn that maybe I should appreciate what I had in my life when I had it, or I could break away and absolutely thrive. And that person who wanted to hold me back would have then been incorrect in telling me to stay where I am because it made them comfortable. So it's not a matter of, I think it's a matter of maybe like not taking things personally and understanding that you yourself don't make the relationship. It's the
It's a team effort. uh Miss, apparently we are having some technical difficulties. I'm not sure whether it's on my end or her end. Oh my. I'm sorry, Miss Rose. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm back. So sorry. Had a little bit of internet connectivity issues. My apologies. Um,
I
but
thought it was actually on my end because it sometimes doesn't work here as well.
yeah, so I don't know if it happened at the same time, but like my internet connection like booted me right off. But I'm back now. I'm good. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, sorry, but I was rambling anyway. But ultimately, yeah, like having people in your life. It's someone once told me that when you loosen your grip on life, you get a better grasp on the situation. So we want to hold on to everything about life. We want to hold on to every great relationship. We want to hold on to every great feeling, but the stream of life is going to keep on flowing. So you can't hold water in your hand with a clenched fist. If you want to enjoy the experience of having water in your hand, you cup your hand and you let the water run through your hand. So while you have the water in your hand, you can enjoy the feel of it, the flow of it, the sound of it, and then it continues to flow. That's life. So it's either
Yeah,
you can try to waste it holding on to it, or you can just appreciate the flow while you have it and then let it go.
that's beautifully said.
Yeah, not my words, but I learned a lot from this person. This is another person that prime example, someone that I did care about that's not in my life physically right now, and but we talk sometime, and he still imparted on me a few gems before we parted ways.
Uh, so I had asked you a while ago if you knew the book Brave New World.
I do not, but it's coming in the mail. So I've been doing a lot of reading lately. The wonderful side effect of this lockdown.
So I'm not sure if you like read a summary or an analysis or anything on the story.
Mm-hmm.
People were saying we're kind of heading towards that instead of the 1984, even though that is also a possibility, especially if we see things now. But I believe that it's going to be a mix of those two. In a way, in Brave New World, they basically got rid of the past. Yeah, they got rid of art and old works, and
Right.
they're basically keeping people happy with drugs, with this drug called Soma, and they're basically everybody belongs to everyone. Anybody can do anything to anyone, like, but that feels good. Like there is, in a way, there is no hate, no, no suffering.
Right. Because everyone kind of has a pass to do whatever it is they feel is right.
But there's also no family, no marriage, no relationships. It's just everybody. It's just everybody can do anything with everybody.
Yeah, that worries me.
It worries me, but it's not like in a negative way. It's not like somebody can just kill someone or something. Like no, it's more. It's positive, but it feels like we're just there. Like if you were in that world, you'd just be there. You'd be enjoying yourself, but nothing would really phase you anymore.
Right.
You
It
wouldn't really get to enjoy other stuff. It's just like what you
fake.
have now
Like
and continue from
right.
there.
Yeah. It's funny that we're talking about this now because just the other night, a clip from um, Slavoj Žižek came up in my feed. Um, Dealing with freaking Richard, I got all type of Gabor Mate, Slavoj Žižek. I got all these weird
Racial
Alan
sociology.
Watts. Right, all this stuff is in my feed now. I'm like, God, it's everywhere. Philosophy is everywhere, but it's cool though. It's cool because it's giving me things to consider. Um, but I think that yeah, that whole paradigm of like we just get rid of history, we get rid of all forms of like cultural identifiers, we just erase all the markers and everybody's the same. I don't think that that's great either because as soon as you have your own, and this is the same premise as in 1984, you're expected to get up, follow Big Brother's commands, you go do your work at the factory, you come back home, you go to bed, you do it all over again. You don't question life. You don't write, you don't think for yourself. Big Brother does your thinking. And I don't think that that's healthy because Slavoj Žižek basically said that to have an environment that these technocrats, these elites, to have a society where everyone is microchipped and they can tap into your brain and you can do whatever they. I think that to a certain level, like there's a bit of a programming that goes into your mental cognition. So someone could possibly, how do you know when someone's hijacking you to do something that you don't want to do? How do you know when someone how do you know when you feel something that you don't want to feel? Like part of what makes humans beautiful is the fact that everything that we do isn't guaranteed to be perfect. And it's in that imperfection that we keep striving and we keep trying and we don't give up. And we find ways to eventually make something meaningful and beautiful of all of the missteps of the past, paired with the knowledge that we've grown to have from making those mistakes. So to have a space or come to a place in history where we are not we're not allowing for that growth process. We're not allowing that natural evolution. Technology is just pushing us into this binary way of existing. I think that that's horrible for mankind. That's pretty much stripping us of our very humanity.
We haven't grown, and since our technology has grown further than us, there are people who want to go towards this sense of utopia, and with all the money they have, they're trying to, in a way, create this world for themselves.
Right.
But you can't really do that. There are also a lot of ethical reasons why you can't do that, but also you basically lose what makes us human. Our imperfections is what makes us perfect. It's what keeps us going forward.
Yes.
And all of this stuff technically also in time changes our brains, changes the ways we think. We're not the same as when we were a child. We're thinking about the situation in a different viewpoint, from a different viewpoint.
Right.
And having somebody forcibly uh, push us in that direction is going to be terrible for our species in a whole as well. We'll never grow.
Exactly.
We're just going to be the same, just to have some programming that makes us more like robots and do everything as we're told. And
Exactly.
we never learn. We're just there.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember when I was younger. Did you ever watch a show called The Twilight Zone?
I've heard about it and I've seen some clips.
Okay, if I can find the particular episode that I'm referencing, I will send it to you because it's trippy. But basically, a man wakes up in a perfectly decorated room, beautiful adornments, beautiful linens, beautiful furniture, and he goes over to a phone that's ringing, I believe. And before he can pick up the ringing phone, a gentleman pops up right next to him. And he's like, "Oh, well, how did you get in here? I didn't hear the door open." And the gentleman's like, "Oh, well, you're a new resident here, so I'm here to help you find your way around and get used to your new home." He's like, "Did I die?" He's like, "Yeah, you died, and but but welcome, but you're here now. Don't you see how wonderful it is?" Like basically like hyping up where the guy is, the guy, and trying to like give like superficial answers to questions and get him to stop asking questions and just be cool with where he was. So he shows him the casino. The gentleman had a gambling thing when he was alive. So he goes to the casino and the guy just he keeps rolling, shooting dice and winning, winning, winning. And all the women around him love him and laughing at his jokes, and all the guys around him are laughing and joking, and he's like the life of the party every time that he shows up at the casino. He goes back up to his room. I think he changes his clothes, or he's about to make a phone call again, and the guy again pops up. He's like, "How do you keep on doing that? Stop doing that. You're creeping me out." Long story short, it gets to the end, and he keeps shooting dice, and he realizes that he always wins, and him always winning is starting to get annoying.
Yeah.
And all the people laughing at his jokes before he even finishes the joke is starting to get annoying. So eventually, he goes back to his room, and he starts thinking, and he goes to dial the phone, and every time that he's about to dial the number on the phone, his tour guide tells him, "Oh, if you ever need me and I don't automatically pop up, just dial 666." So he goes to the phone, and this time he dials 666, and the gentleman again pops up. Doesn't hear a door open or close or nothing, and he's like, I'd like to do some other things. Like, can I go outside and can I go outside and have some fun, or can I go out and take a walk? Can I see a beach? Can I go for a walk? Like, so he starts asking about whether or not he can do something besides just go to the casino. And he's like, and the guy is looking at him crazy, like, why do you want to do anything else? Don't you have everything that you want here? What's your problem? And the guy is like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And why is it getting so hot in here? As a matter of fact, and I'm like, what kind of heaven is this? And the gentleman starts laughing and saying, I never told you that you were in heaven. Bugged me the hell out. Pardon me, when I was younger. I'm like, oh, he's in hell. I'm like 8 or 9 years old watching this stuff, so it freaked me out when it got to the end of it. I used to love the Twilight Zone for this very reason, because it would put you in like these moral these dilemmas where you really had to think, oh my God, if I was there, what would I do? I'd flip out. I'd lose it. But that's a prime example. If we were in a society where everything was just monotone all the time, we would, I believe,
perfect, everything was good.
Yeah, it'd be horrible.
I believe that Black Mirror, in a way, is like the modern version of the Twilight Zone, actually.
Yes, it's a mix, because it was, for me when I was younger, there was Tales from the Dark Side, there was the Twilight Zone, there was Tales from the Crypt, and there was The Outer Limits. So those like weird sci-fi horror things, I don't know, for whatever reason, I was a weird child. Those things were funny. Those things were funny and weird to me, because it made me think, oh my gosh, what would happen if these things actually like came to life? And for me, watching Black Mirror is like an amalgamation. It's like all those things put together of what would happen if we as a people lose our moral ground, lose our hold on technology, lose our ability to relate human to human, lose our ability to thrive through difficult conditions, and just want to give up and have a computer do everything for us. It's not going to be good. I don't believe it's going to be good.
Life might be easier, but that doesn't mean that it's good.
Easier, right? Easier doesn't entail that it's going to be a life that you enjoy. Like slavery could be easier. You're going to wake up a slave, you're going to fall asleep a slave. Does that mean that people who've been slaves want to be slaves anymore? Absolutely not.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah, weird. It's all weird. I'm praying that we don't let ourselves go down that road of, we are so used to instant gratification that we just think that like not being instantly gratified is something that is like a part of life. Like, no, I'm supposed to, our sense of entitlement. I'm not supposed to struggle. I'm not supposed to go through any challenge. Like, it's the transcendence. It's the going beyond the challenge. It's the growing past the hard times that shows you what you're made of. So us not wanting to like step up to the challenge is frightening.
And stuff that might hurt the way that people might be going to. Like you said in the story, the guy started thinking for himself. He was like, hey, this is not right. And he wanted to do other stuff. And that, in a way, if we all start thinking for ourselves and actually looking at the situation and being like, hey, this is not right, how can we talk about this? And this will actually hurt that other ideology, or that thing that we're going towards,
right?
That masses will basically want.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to influence that more people to think for themselves.
Exactly. Right. Like I said, there are things that, like I said, we're both Caribbean women. For all intents and purposes, we're both Caribbean women. But your experience of life in the Caribbean is different than mine. My Caribbean culture is just an island. Your Caribbean culture is also rooted in South America. So you have different elements of what it means to you to be a Caribbean woman. But it doesn't mean that like your experience was better than mine, my experience was better than yours. No, it came with an inherent set of challenges that in the course of us learning how to live through, make us the individuals that we are. Exactly. Similar cultural background or not. You could have a totally different mindset toward the Caribbean experience, because you have more of the Indo-Caribbean influence. So while the Caribbean is considered the West Indies, that could be, again, that means different things to different people depending on your lived experience. So you can see beyond it, and you can accept that someone else's reality is a different reality than yours. It doesn't invalidate your reality. It doesn't make their reality better than yours. And this is where I feel that the conflict that we're in right now, for me to say that, I'm Jamaican and hey, Jamaican lives matter. You're
Surinamese.
Surinese lives matter. Yeah, sorry.
Surinamese life.
Suriname. Yes, right. Your life matters. My life matters. Someone across the world, your life matters. I don't have to erase my culture to embrace the culture and the lived experience of someone else. Even if they've been raised with different ideologies, a different pace of life, a different way of communicating, even a different mental state. I said the only difference between mental state is if you have a mental state where you are criminally minded, where you feel that you can hurt people, that's a different ballpark. Yes. So if your ideology means that you can go to another place and harm other people, that's what I'm not cool with. That will be something that I cancel. You don't have the right to come into my subjective reality and do me harm, because I'm not giving out that energy. So don't bring that energy to me. But otherwise, if you're just existing as you exist and saying, look, you go for yours because I'm going to go for mine, by all means, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. But it's when we come together that we can basically combine our voices for change for the better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's why I'm also for the pro Black Lives Matter movement, because we all need to stand together. It doesn't matter from where you are. So our friends, our families who we support, their lives can in a way get better and help them understand why people are doing this or doing that, and
right.
help better the communication, because people are picking sides. It's either you're with us or you're against us.
Right. And that's not fair. To me, that's erasure too, because if you don't authentically identify with the movement, you're not helping the movement by falsely or superficially identifying with it for the sake of whatever, for the sake of the popular narrative. It would do much better if you say, you know what, this is not my fight. I'm going to sit back and let those people fight. If they want to fight, if they want to protest, if they want to do what they want to do, they have the right to do so. My opinion really doesn't matter. So I don't have to engage. There are a lot of people that say a lot of inflammatory things on my feed, and I don't make it a point to go and argue it. You're wrong. Every post, you're wrong. I'd be exhausted with social media if I did that. I want to throw my phone out the window. There comes a point where when you mature, you realize that everyone's fight may not be your fight. But if you genuinely choose to align with those who are fighting because you see something in your own life that mirrors what they're going through too, that's when you can realize, hey, we're different, but we're going through the same thing.
We can identify with each other.
Exactly. So we may not agree on the same issues, but if we're going through the same things because of societal functions that are not working, then we can all speak up about the same thing. We can all be mad at injustice, period. It doesn't matter where you come from. Injustice is injustice. And if you allow it for someone else, trust, when it happens to you, then you can't be mad when no one else speaks up because you chose to remain silent. That was your choice. You have the right to. But if you do speak up authentically because this is what you want to do, you now build a bridge to another person's experience where that person can say, hey, you didn't have to be concerned, but you are. And I appreciate that. And if anything ever happens, I got your back if you stand up.
That is better. Like what you said is better than what I have seen other people say and talk about. They just went from one extreme to the other, which is very terrifying and very terrible. And it actually stunts us as people in our growth.
Exactly, because you can, and this is a point that Richard brings up as well, and Richard and Pierre talk about, is that, that if you can't force who you are down someone else's throat, that's how you go from being someone who's being manipulated and being harmed to now doing harm to someone else. So it kind of makes you a hypocrite, because at one point you were being abused and someone said that, hey, your abuse is wrong. But now that you got a chance to stand up, now you take the stance of the abuser. Again, that's like going to the polar opposite. And now you're doing harm in your own way.
And that hopefully, because when people see this, they're going to understand that and actually work more on, being more, opening up the conversation.
Right.
It's when the
Exactly.
conversation stops, then you have to be worried. Then
Get dangerous.
it can get dangerous. And like I
Yeah.
said, actions speak louder than words. Their actions might end up doing some stuff that might either be good for the situation or bad. I'm just saying
Right.
the actions can be good or bad. That gives you like a perception of the person. You
The
might
intention.
for the side. We have a
Mm-hmm.
question from Miss Maria.
Yeah. So the question Miss Maria says is, what would you say to a mother of young children, such as myself, about how to speak to them about what's going on in the world? Um, okay, Maria, I would approach it from a space where you're teaching them to be proud of who they are, teaching them that they are um, teaching them that they are safe, that you operate from a space where you are keeping them mentally, emotionally, spiritually safe and sound, and that what's happening in the world right now is a reflection of a lot of people feeling that the reality that we're living in, the world that we're sharing, the people who are making the rules are not acknowledging that the rules are hurting some people. Like, you make rules to protect them because you want them to be happy and healthy. These people are not happy and healthy. These people are not faring well. So this is why they're standing up for themselves, just like you would teach them that if someone is trying to hurt them or if someone is being unfair to them, that they have the right to request respect and fair treatment, and that if they're not being treated fairly, they have the right to speak up, they have a right to their voice, and they have a right to get away and start looking at the rules. And what about the rules says that it's okay for them to be hurt? Because those rules maybe need to get changed, if that makes sense.
I'm hearing a song coming from your side. Is everything there okay?
Yeah, it's there are actually fire trucks going down the street. So yeah, nothing crazy is happening here today, thankfully.
Yeah, I have to be worried here too because some people were joking online about starting riots here.
Oh no, 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 no. Right? Like, hold on, something's going on. Something's getting burnt down.
It's a
Yeah,
joke,
we don't
but
want
yeah.
yeah, we don't want that.
But they'd have their own reasons why. Like we had a protest back in way back when. Unfortunately, I can't talk about it here, or else people will say Rin said this, Rin said that. Everybody run, go after Rin.
Right. We don't want that. Yeah.
And we do not want that. Even if my channel is small, word goes around
Oh
faster
yeah,
than
of course. Of
yeah.
course. You have to definitely be wise. Not careful, be wise with what you say before you say it, because once those words are on the internet, they're out there forever.
They're on there forever. That's kind of why I hate and like the internet at the same time. It's like an archive, but at the same time, your worst moments might be there as well.
Yep. Yep.
You're gonna be
Ding ding ding.
remembered as a meme forever.
Right, right, exactly. You'll be immortalized somewhere. Someone to take a screenshot or written down. You know what you're welcome, Maria. um, yeah, but yeah, it's time to with everything. I guess being so like the foundations are being reset. So you know how like if you could pour cement, if you or there are wet mud, you put your foot in that mud. Once the sun makes that earth hard again. Your footprint is there. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, I think that's how society is right now. Like we're all in muddy water. We're all in murky time. So whatever your stamp is on this, whatever your mark is on this life, make it a good one because it will follow you.
Yes. And especially with me now, since I've noticed more of my friends getting a lot popular than me online on social media. I'm kind of bit wondering, like, hey, watch out what you guys are saying. Stuff might not, stuff might happen, and I don't want you guys to get the short end of the stick and yeah, be
Right.
bullied online or anything like that.
Exactly. So I mean,
I
hmm
I myself, the way that I'm putting myself out there were like a couple of things going on. I was dressing a bit different at school. For instance, I was like wearing my jacket or wearing my hair a bit different, and I noticed people actually taking pictures of me and sharing it around and actually laughing at me. Okay, past Rin would be like, you guys, please stop doing that. That made me feel uncomfortable." I'm like, that would just get more attention towards me, and it wouldn't make them stop. They just like continue doing it. So I'm like, you guys can say whatever you want about me or laugh. At least I made somebody happy. At least I made someone smile, because we need positivity in this world, especially with
right.
things going on. So I'm glad that I made you laugh. I'm glad that I brought joy into your heart.
That's right. You have to flip it on them. See,
There
I'm
should be a
glad that I brightened up your day.
my yeah.
Yes, yes. You got to be slick with it nowadays. Whatever you're gonna do, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, being in this world, that you have to be as harmless as a dove, but as wise as a viper. So, you don't have to walk around being malicious, but if somebody tries to set it off on you, you got to know how to flip it on them.
See, and this is why I think that religion is also important. We can look back on it and see what we can learn from it.
Yeah. Yes, it has. It has tons of lessons of how to keep yourself sane in a time where a lot of people are going to question the very existence, puts us in a space where we're constantly questioning who we are. And the more and more that you explore yourself, so your friends that are developing their channels, that's fine. This is your channel. This is your statement. So however they do it, whatever comes back to them, they would be sowing or reaping what they sow.
Yes.
So you make
What
sure that you're focused. Yeah. So you just make sure that the only person that you can, it's the only person destiny whom you can control, no matter how much you love them, the only person's destiny you can control is your own. So
exactly.
operate your destiny with extreme fortitude and confidence that you're going to accomplish what it is you're going to accomplish. And it doesn't matter if it's a huge following. It's a matter of a genuine following more than anything.
For me, it doesn't matter if I get so many views, so many likes, so many whatever. I just want people to learn from what I'm saying. I want people to walk away with and be like, "Hey, I learned something today, and I may apply it to my life, or and be like afterwards and be like, "Hey, this really helped me."
Right.
And thank you, Rin, or thank you, Miss Yuji Rose.
Well, and I
Like,
and I and I can
that's good
sincerely
enough
thank
for
you.
me. That's good
Right.
enough for me.
I can sincerely thank you. I didn't know about Suriname until you shared about where you're from. I didn't know about the fact that like we're kind of again we're like Caribbean cousins.
Yes, we are.
So
Yeah, we're like Caribbean cousins. Technically, Suriname is like a part of the Caribbean community.
yes, it
So
is.
CARICOM.
Yeah, like I
So
said, just like Guyana, like French Guyana is your neighbor, and said Guyana is again, you have the Indo Caribbean elements along with being in South America. So you have the Latin influence as well. You're a beautiful melting pot of so many different facets of what it is to be Caribbean. So there's no monolith. We all have different things that influence our background. Just like Poet and the Rockstar was on chemical croissant the other day, and he talked about him being Puerto Rican, but having, multiple influences be a part of or comprise who you are, because there were Tainos in Puerto Rico. There were Africans that came to Puerto Rico. There were other islands. We all island hopped. So the spectrum of who we are ranges from people who are Indo-Caribbean, Asian Caribbean. There's a huge Japanese and Chinese following, or a grouping of people that are spread throughout the Caribbean. There are so many different elements to what makes us who we are, that there's no need for us to sit there and try to pick apart who we are. No, just appreciate the culture. Wherever you are in it is where you are in it. And again, and you taught me about, a facet of the Caribbean family that I wasn't aware of. So this was a
Basically,
learning
an
moment for me.
exchange.
Yes. Yep. So it's not just about, for me, it's not just about teaching. I learn a lot from sitting in the realities of other people, like you shared your reality with me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So we're nearing the end of today's stream. So, Miss Yuji Rose, I thank you for being on today's stream.
Thank you for
You
having
are
me.
you are incredible. I learned so much from you, and I hope that a lot of people who watch this can also learn from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I need to get you on my channel next. So be on the lookout when I get things together.
If you want to be on your channel another time, we can do it with StreamYard, and then we can talk about some other stuff there. Like, I would
Yes.
really love to. So,
Yes.
and nobody else has any other questions. So, yeah.
All right. And
Guys,
anybody who viewed, thank you. Thank you for supporting
thank
Ren.
you,
Let's continue
everybody.
to.
Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
being part of the stream. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and especially share this video. It will help us a lot, and together we can grow as people.
That's
So,
right.
thank you guys, and see you guys next time. Goodbye.